happy. I don't know, it puts me in a good mood.
Oh, it's crazy music, man. That's the same as me, Jack.
Rock and roll is cool, Daddy, and you know it.
Rock and roll had taken America by surprise in the mid-50s, and almost by accident. Elvis and Little Richard stumbling upon their styles.
Could I say something? Let it all hang out!
Bill Haley's Rock Around the Clock.
Anybody want to hear this record, huh?
A discarded B-side. But now rock and roll will stride forward with money and management. It will spread into Main Street America.
Our teenagers won't ever be the same after this.
It's really marvelous.
Well, he just feels the rhythm.
Birthing even wilder artists.
Either you have ruined a whole generation of kids.
And ringing major alarm bells.
Sent shockwaves through parenthood.
I don't feel that I'm doing anything wrong.
As America feared its kids were running wild.
They thought rock and roll was for hoodlums.
Our young people are getting out of hand everywhere.
Breathless.
And they're off. Up to the halfway mark, they're neck and neck.
170.45 miles per hour.
1950s America, where teenagers enjoyed a share of a turbocharged good life.
There's the Allison against the twin Chevy. You can't see it for the smoke, but the Chevy won.
And kids now found themselves with money to burn.
Elvis explained this to my dad and I. He said, we've always aimed our songs and record sales to adults. But he says, you see the kids that are coming out to the show. They have their own money, they're buying the records, and they're the ones that'll make it happen for you. So you've got to do their type of songs.
Well, it's one for the money, two for the show, three to get ready. Now go, cat, go, but don't you.
As rock and roll grew, there was an explosion of record sales, tripling in the second half of the 50s as teens bought millions of discs. But as the money started to roll in, so did the money men. And in a South that did things its own way, there was one man in Memphis who loomed large.
On a manager-artist relationship, very few deals are more than 20%. That's it. That's an artist-manager split. The Colonel, he had a 50-50 relationship with Elvis till the day he died. He was a mysterious sort of a guy. There were things about the Colonel that I don't think anybody will ever know.
He was a self-made Southern colonel. He had jumped ship. He was an illegal alien. He was a Dutchman. He did something bad because he didn't go back. Some people say he may have killed somebody there.
Before he signed Elvis, he was like a traveling salesman almost.
Dr. Mayfield's wonderful Vitazoan remedy brings a new spring to your walk. Oh, I see.
He promoted different medications and all kinds of stuff.
A sample of the marvelous freaks you'll see if you hurry, hurry, hurry.
He was doing these country fairs. He sent someone out to buy some little chickens, and they had music playing Turkey in the Straw and the electric hot plate, and they were pulling their feet up and because they were burning their feet. And that was the Colonel's famous dancing chickens.
Let's get real gone for a change. Well, I woke up this morning and I looked out the door. I can tell that old milk cow, I can tell the way she low. Now if you see my milk cow.
In early 55, the Colonel was just an advisor to Elvis, not even his manager, with no exclusive rights over Sun Records' local star.
Tom Parker started running around the country saying that Elvis Presley's contract was for sale, which was not true. And my dad got wind of it. He called him and said, man, you know, what the hell are you doing? The Elvis contract's not for sale. Tom Parker said, well, would you sell him? You know, would you ever sell him? And my dad said, well, if the price was right. And when he When he said that, he was thinking in his mind, what the price I would ask, nobody would pay for that, for Elvis Presley. Nobody would. And he said, well, what's the price? And my dad said, $35,000, which at that time was the highest contract ever that anybody ever been bought for.
Colonel wanted stuff his way, period. You couldn't beat him at his own game. He could out-talk you. He could out-think you. He's a pretty smart guy, really.
Train I ride, 16 coaches long.
By November '55, the man who didn't manage Elvis sold him to RCA for a record fee and installed himself as sole representative with a huge cut and songwriting credits.
Well, that long black train got my baby and gone.
But signed to a major label, the Southern boy, largely unknown to the rest of America, now had a real chance of reaching a national audience.
Elvis is in Memphis. Sidewalks roll up at 10 o'clock. Let's go down to the Variety Club. And it's just me and Elvis and Dewey and the bartender. And there's a little piano in the club. It's about 2 o'clock in the morning. And Elvis says, hey, GK, you and Dewey come over. I want you to hear my new song I'm going to record. See what y'all think.
It's called Heartbreak Hotel.
Since my baby left me, I found a place to dwell. I looked at Dewey, and Dewey looked at me, and we just said, Elvis, boy, Elvis, that's a damn smash hit.
Well, since my baby left me, well, I found a new place to dwell. Well, it's down at the end of Lonely Street at Heartbreak Hotel.
The first impact that I got of Elvis Presley was Heartbreak Hotel, which was a brand new sound.
I'll be so lonely I could die.
I realized that because of the breaks, the voice was on its own. I tried to analyze it afterwards. The vocal was like, since my baby left, you found a new place to dwell. It's down at the end of Lonely Street, there's Heartbreak Hotel. And then, doom, 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 doom. You know what I mean? Then the music comes in. But the vocal was up there in front first. They concentrated on that.
Well, if your baby leaves you, you got a tale to tell. Well, just take a walk down Lonely Street to Heartbreak Hotel. You'll be so lonely, baby. Well, you'll be lonely. Well, they're so lonely and they pray to die.
With the song climbing the charts, America finally got to see Elvis on national TV.
Electricity beyond comprehension is a raw excitement of life that we hadn't seen yet.
It changes you inwardly. It hits you passionately. It hits you emotionally.
Heartbreak Hotel was Elvis's first national #1. He followed it with an even bigger hit, not written for him, but for a 6-foot force of nature.
You ain't nothing but a hound. When Snoopy round the door. You ain't nothing but a hound dog.
The song was written for a black woman, Mama Mae Thornton.
The lyrics, they were somewhat inspired by her physical presence.
Thornton was rough. I'm talking about rough like Maine rough. That kind of like, she knocked you out. She'll put the hound dog fist on you.
It was sort of about a gigolo, you know, who came to this woman's house and, you know, just wanted what she had.
The original lyric is, you ain't nothing but a hound dog, quit snooping around my door. You can wag your tail, but I ain't gonna feed you no more. It's about a freeloader. Elvis's version had converted this, and the lyrics are a guy singing to a dog.
Elvis Presley speeded it up. He speeded it up to the taste where it like it be rock and rollish.
Oh, he did it fast.
Yeah, we didn't want to do it like her. So we didn't do it like her. Here's what I played on Hound Dog.
You ain't nothing but a hound dog, crying all the time. Well, you ain't never caught a rabbit and you ain't no friend of mine. Well, they said you was high class. Well, that was just fine.
He had more fun on stage than I'd ever seen anybody have. He just was out there having a ball.
You ain't no friend of mine. You ain't nothing but a hound dog.
Just at the very end of the song, he cuts the time in half. It slows it down in a very dramatic way, and he starts moving his hips in this really sensual way, and all the girls start screaming, and it was kind of sensational.
Well, you ain't never caught a rabbit. You ain't no friend of mine.
Why would that have been so shocking? Nobody would have ever seen anything like this. That was a public display of sexuality that was unheard of. That would have been considered pornographic. It was like putting your finger in an electric socket if you were a teenager. Holy cow.
Well, you ain't never caught a rabbit. You ain't no friend of mine.
TV reviewers from the day, they were incensed at this vulgarism, this whole notion of they'd lost control.
There is no room in this city for the vulgar performances of Elvis Presley.
I watched him gyrate his legs and swivel his hips. And our parent-teachers group feels he should not be on television.
We've set up a 20-man committee to do away with this vulgar, animalistic, nigger rock and roll bomb.
What Elvis was doing was what he did in church, sanctified church he was raised in. People dance wildly, they flop about. He wasn't doing a vulgar striptease kind of thing. He was doing what he would do in front of God and his mom.
They just didn't understand it wasn't sexual. So that really hurt his feelings when somebody would say something derogatory.
Your style of gyrating while you sing has been bitterly criticized, even by usually mild and gentle TV critics. Do you think you've learned anything from the criticism leveled at you?
No, I haven't.
You haven't, huh?
Because I don't feel that I'm doing anything wrong.
I remember backstage one time, Elvis had a newspaper clipping, and they were just raking him over the coals, you know? I don't know, he just really felt bad. He said, they don't understand. We're having fun. This is young people's music. Don't try to understand it, you know? But it really hurt his feelings that the adults didn't like him, you know?
You ain't no friend of mine.
For his next appearance on The Steve Allen Show, Elvis emerged dressed in a tuxedo, in a sense sexually neutered by his outfit.
And Steve had him singing to a dog, and he didn't like it a bit. And he didn't like Steve till the day he died.
Well, they said you was high class. Well, that's
And the new TV industry began to place restrictions on the way Elvis's body was filmed.
Ed Sullivan wouldn't shoot him from the waist down. You know, that says a lot.
It just all depends on how you look at it. I guess if you want to think it's nasty or sexy, you could, but to me it's just,
Well, the two things are not necessarily the
yeah,
same.
well, you know, it's just so limber and loose. I mean, it's really marvelous.
Well, he just feels the rhythm, digs it the most. You don't see anything wrong with it? No.
He wasn't going away, and they tried to get him to go away. They tried big time to get him to go away. They think that he was the sexual revolution. Yeah, he did a lot of things, but for many of us, he was the first opportunity in America for self-exploration. We didn't have to be what they wanted us to be when they wanted us to be that. He gave us a chance to back up, explore ourselves.
And this new self-exploration raised fears that kids would question America's way of life. Rock and roll was seen as a highway to rebellion and delinquency.
In a lot of the papers, they say rock and roll is a big influence on juvenile delinquency. I don't think that it is.
What about the rumor that you once shot your mother?
Well, I think that one takes the cake.
I'm sure you had a lot of people that thought, man, here we go. We're going to ruin America with this junk, you know. Our teenagers won't ever be the same after this, you know.
Particularly the white audience, you know. They really had never seen anything like this.
The parents call it the devil's music.
It's the sound. Once the music hits, it's like smoking a weed. Changes things.
The obscenity and vulgarity of the rock and roll music is obviously a means by which the white man and his children can be driven to the level with the nigger.
The children were now suddenly not behaving in lockstep, predictable fashion the way their parents had expected them to behave, the way they, the parents, had behaved.
This rock and roll rhythm is filled with dynamite, and we don't want the dynamite to go off in the Roosevelt Stadium in Jersey City.
What do you think? I think that man must have been nowhere because rock and roll is cool, Daddy, and you know it. Rock and roll is the most, and if they stop that, they ain't gonna have no more music.
But this rock and roll rhythm has been the seed of trouble, and we want to keep trouble out of Jersey City, Don.
They thought rock and roll was for hoodlums and people that you were robbing their cars while you were singing rock and roll on stage. They associated with that or something.
Rock and roll has got to go, and go it does. That's the best way I know to get rid of them.
Folks over here would, be on TV smashing records, so this is sinful and it's going to spoil our kids, and you might have.
The rock and roll records must go. No more rock and roll on KWK after this week, which is, as you know, record-breaking week.
If rock and roll spoiled the kids, it spoiled them good, I think.
Frankie Lyman, a 13-year-old youngster with a great way with the song, and the Teenagers.
I'm not a juvenile delinquent.
If America needed confirmation that there was a problem, in November '56, doo-wop's biggest stars provided it. By the end of the year, the issue was becoming a national obsession.
It's easy to be good, it's hard to be bad. Stay out of trouble, you'll be glad. Take this tip from me, and you will see how happy you will be.
It's so interesting. We think teenagers and thinking of the delinquents. We're not thinking of the vast majority of American teenagers who are just as conservative as their parents.
Nora, Jim started that hat-making contest that you like so much. Come on.
In the end, we're going to give the prize to the best hat. All right, here are your materials.
For the teenagers of 50s Middle America, who married and settled down at the average age of 21, there was a wholesome alternative. Pat Boone.
He's a sincere, solid citizen whose interest in community as well as business affairs would make him welcome in any town.
You ain't nothing but a hound dog, crying all the time.
Elvis did an interview. They asked him, when are you going to get married and settle down and have kids like Pat Boone? Elvis, with that little kind of natural leer, and said, why should I buy a cow when I can get milk through the fence?
You ain't nothing but
And that sent shockwaves through parenthood all over America. See, you can't have anything to do with that guy.
crying all the time. Well, you ain't
Rock and roll was too edgy for Middle America, but Pat Boone was the answer. He was one of them. And the young trainee teacher hit on a way of repackaging the music for suburban folk and the pop charts.
Rock and roll was becoming known as this new music that teenagers were adopting, and that's where the money was. And of course, because of that, producers at the white record companies saying, let's find these rhythm and blues songs that sound like they could be pop hits and do them. I heard Tutti Frutti on the radio, and my first reaction was, that's such a simplistic, nonsense song. A wop, bop, a loo, mop, a lop, what was that?
A wop, bop, a loo, mop, a lop, bop, bop. I got a girl named Sue. She knows just what to do.
But we thought, well, this could be another rhythm and blues, pop, rock and roll hit like these others. So we recorded it.
Who, me?
Yes, Big Daddy.
I remember every time we Little Richard hear Pat Boone, we would look at each other and we'd bust out and laugh and stuff like that.
A wop, bop, a loo, mop, a lop, bop, bop. Got a gal, her name's Sue. Knows just what to do. I got a gal, her name's Sue. know just what to do. I went to the east.
That's why this cat think he can sing like Little Richard, or, you know. He didn't have the soul.
I did change a couple of the words because coming from my background and already married, there were a couple of lines that sounded a little erotic to me. Boy, you don't know what she do to me. Well, that's anybody's guess as what that means. I just thought I'll change it to something innocuous. So Pretty Little Susie is the girl for me.
Pretty little Susie is the gal for me.
Just to make it more palatable, I felt, to a white audience.
And Pat Boone's rewriting of black rock and roll didn't stop there. When it came to covering Fats Domino, basic slang offended him.
Since Pat Boone was majoring in English at Columbia University, he basically refused to sing ain't.
I said, ain't that a, that's not good English. Can we sing, isn't that a shame? Randy Wood at Dot Records. He said, well, try it. So I'm recording with this rock and roll band, isn't that a shame? And Randy said, no, it's just not the same. It's got to be ain't.
Ain't that a shame? My tears fell like rain.
I tried to capture the rhythm and blues flavor, but of course, not being black, not being steeped in rhythm and blues music, mine did sound different.
But you got to remember, if Pat Boone didn't record some of the black artists, music would never been heard.
But Pat Boone went over there and brought it to them. And he brought it to them in a language that they could understand.
Just as a novelty, some of the stations started playing the original version by Fats Domino. The kids loved it. And they would call in and say, I want to hear the new version of Ain't That a Shame, not knowing that it had been the original. And that's how Fats Domino made the pop charts for the very first time.
Later, Fats showed me a big piano-shaped diamond ring on one of his chubby fingers. He said, that song bought me this ring with your record.
Pat's sanitized version of rock and roll was due in large part to his religious upbringing in Nashville. And ironically, a church deep in the Louisiana Delta would produce the next firebrand of rock and roll.
Oh, amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wreck like me. Oh, that once was lost, oh Lord, but now I'm found. I was blind, but right now, old Jerry can see.
Religious songs, I was raised up on religious songs. And I played in church, and I went to Bible college in Waxahachie, Texas.
Jerry grew up around passionate born-again preachers. And it was his mother who enrolled the teenage Jerry in the strict Texan Bible school, expecting him to play exclusively evangelical songs.
I played My God Is Real for this boy, this preacher boy, kid, who wanted to sing it, and he was singing it, you know, stuff like that. I said, you want to make a real hit with these kids? He said, yeah, what do you think? I said, well, the thing about it, and I give it a kind of a boogie-woogie lick, you know. I said, sing it like this. He said, yeah, that's good. And it brought the house down.
Yeah, my God is real. Oh, he's really my soul.
From an early age, Jerry had been pounding out a style on this piano heard in the local honky-tonks. Not that it impressed the dean of the Bible school.
He said, you have ruined a whole generation of kids. I said, well, I never looked at it that way, sir. He said, we're just going to have to ask you to leave this school. I said, well, I figured on leaving anyway.
Jerry began playing local clubs in Louisiana and building a reputation as a hot boogie-woogie talent. He worked his daddy's farm and saved money to travel to the Grand Ole Opry and Louisiana Hayride, but was turned down at both. In late '56, down on his luck, he headed to Memphis, selling the last of the family's eggs to buy a tank of gas to get to Sun, to audition for Sam Phillips.
Hey, this is the legendary Jerry Lee Lewis piano that I'm lucky to be able to play. I mean, just think, Jerry Lee played this piano, his hands were on it, and if you get close here, you see there's a cigar burn in the piano keys here that Jerry Lee put his cigar down there, from what I understand. And knowing Jerry Lee like I know him, it doesn't surprise me at all that Jerry Lee Lewis, I think, was one of the only ones that came in here full of confidence, knew he was great.
When I met Sam in his office at the studio in 1956, he said, "Now, what are you going to do when you start making all this money and all these young girls are going to start screaming and trying to get to you and everything?" He said, "Well, how are you going to handle that?" I said, "Not very hard at all."
Now blue ain't the word for the way that I feel. That old storm brewing in this heart of mine.
It was more or less an audition to see what Jerry had. And I think it was the first time I'd ever played with a piano player, so it was kind of a weird meeting, all this coming together, and these guys wanting to play music, you know. So, but when he started playing that piano, man, it was a whole different story.
J.M. and Jerry had only just met, but this first take of Jerry's audition, a cover of Ray Price's country hit, Crazy Arms, became his debut single.
Crazy arms that reach to hold somebody new.
I was the first disc jockey in the world to play Crazy Arms. And even though I was a rock and roll disc jockey, I was playing rhythm and blues. For some reason, it kind of fit in. It was different. So then Sam knew that he had to get a follow-up song.
And somebody suggested, let's do that shaking song we did the other day. So we do a whole lot of shaking going on. And we never rehearsed it in the studio.
One cut. Set down, done one cut.
Come on over, baby, whole lot of shaking going on. Yes, I said, come on over, baby, baby, you can't go wrong.
Radio stations, they just didn't want to play it because any suggestive lyrics was taboo.
You know, it was a sexy thing. That's why they banned the record.
A lot of shaking going on. I auditioned for Steve Allen in his office, and I played a whole lot of shaking going on. And he said, "I want him on my show Sunday night doing that song word for word just like he did it now."
Here he is, jumping and jolting, Jerry Lee Lewis.
Come on over, baby, whole lot of shaking going on. Yeah, come on, baby, baby, you can't go wrong. Oh, thinking, whole lot of shaking going on. Yeah, come on over, baby, we got chicken in the barn. Woo, honey, come on over, we got food by the horn. Oh, thinking, whole lot of shaking going on. Oh, shake, baby, shake, shake, baby, shake.
It was a big thing in America, you know. All you got to do, honey, is kind of stand in one spot, wiggle it around just a little bit, wiggle it around just a little bit. You know, and they say, whoa, wait a minute, wiggle it around. What is it?
All you gotta do, honey, kind of stand in one spot.
You know, I mean, it's like, you know, wiggle it around.
Oh, yeah, I used to stand in one spot and wiggle it around a little bit. Yeah, that's when you got something.
If you're not getting what he means, what he's saying it.
Oh, shake, baby, shake, shake, baby, shake, shake, honey, shake, shake, baby, shake. Come on over, whole lot of shaking going on.
Steve Allen kind of gave his stamp of approval, and it kind of broke the barriers. From then on, people thought, well, hey, it's okay. So the song really from that point on took off.
And they lifted the band on it. It was selling like 380,000 records a day, which is pretty good for a country boy.
Shake! Shake! Buddy, shake! Shake, baby! Shake, baby! Shake! Big waking! Whole lot of shake going on!
Next thing I know, we was rolling in money. Money has a way of changing people or doing men, you know.
Jerry was a guy who real quick became very fond of himself. I mean, he just all of a sudden wasn't this humble little cat from Louisiana. You know, now he's Jerry Lee Lewis, you know, and strutting around like a peacock.
Well, he always had, his ego was intact. He was like a little peacock, you know, ruled the roost. Very, very interesting guy. You might could wring his neck sometimes, but he's interesting.
Of all the bands and all the clubs that I've played in, the only time I feared for my life was when I was playing with Jerry Lee in these nightclubs. He could get us in more trouble, and you didn't know if you were going to get out alive. First off, he'd start flirting with the women, and their husbands or boyfriends, they'd get mad at Jerry, and then they'd start yakking back and forth, and the next thing you know, you got 4 or 5 of these guys waiting for you at the door when you pack up.
But it wasn't long before Jerry graduated from the club circuit to bigger venues, bringing about a new set of conflicts.
My name is Jerry Lee, from Louisiana. I'm gonna do your little boogie on this here piano.
By mid-57, Jerry was on a national tour with Chuck Berry.
Make you do it until you.
The promoter said, I'll flip a coin, you open one night, you open the next. And it seemed to be the first night that Jerry lost out, but Jerry wasn't real happy about it, and of course they had a few differences about that.
And Chuck, he just insisted on closing the show. I said, no problem, you close it.
This way. Oh, I do my little boogie woogie every day.
Well, I just had a Coke bottle about that much gasoline in it, and they thought I was drinking a Coke, you know. I said that on the piano. I finished my show and I walked on, I just bumped that Coke bottle and the gasoline poured out into the piano. And I just struck a match to it and it blazed up. It was burning like crazy. And here come a fireman, so I had axes in my hand and everything. I said, well, how did this happen? I said, girl, you got me.
You shake my nerves and you rattle my brain.
It's your turn to go on, Chuck.
You broke my will, but what a thrill. Goodness gracious, great balls of fire.
And the other person will say, well, there's smoke, there's fire.
Because I know how it seems when you sing it. The beat, the beat, the beat.
They called him a prince of devils.
I know the last position that you get into in the beat.
Kiss me, baby.
Let's go.
A lot of the early rock and rollers believed in a fire and brimstone hell and feared that what they were doing might take them to hell.
I mean, he scared me to death on the road. Jerry comes in the room and jumps up on the bed that I'm sleeping in and starts telling us we're all going to hell for playing rock and roll music. Scared me to death, man. I'm thinking, well, man, surely not for that, you know. Gotta be something worse than that.
First time I met Elvis, he was leaving, he was walking out the front door. I said, just a minute, Elvis, there's one thing I want to ask you before you leave. I said, if you died, do you think you'd go to heaven or hell? Bluntly, I put it like that, you know. And he said, Jerry, don't ever say that to me again. I said, okay. I think I shook him up pretty good.
When I'm playing music, I also feel the spirit. And then you start wondering, where's the spirit coming from? Is this the Satan spirit or is it the Lord's Spirit. If you interview most of these folks from the South, I think you're going to get pretty much the same answer from all of them, you know, and that's what these guys are wrestling with, you know.
And between takes of Great Balls of Fire, Jerry convinced himself he'd crossed a line.
H-E-L-L. Great God, the mighty great balls of fire. With the joy of God. But when it comes to worldly music, rock and roll. Well, get out. Man, the devil in me.
I think my dad had to, you know, kind of wrangle that notion out of him in order for him to feel all right about recording. And I'm not sure that he ever completely satisfied himself that he wasn't playing the devil's music.
Listen, Mr. Philip, I don't care. It ain't what you believe. It's what's written in the Bible. Well, wait a minute. It's what's there, Mr. Phillips. No.
Wasn't no convincing Sam that there was a heaven and there was a hell. There was no convincing him of that. And I really worried myself to death about it, you know. I just want to make sure that when I descend from this earth and my soul leaves this body, I just really want to make sure that I don't go to hell, that I go to heaven. I'd hate to know that I missed out on going to heaven.
From 1956 on, there was a flourish of rock and roll films. And the best of them, The Girl Can't Help It, had a few tricks up its sleeve.
This motion picture was photographed in the grandeur of CinemaScope, and... Pardon me.
This was the first rock and roll movie with big production values, and saw rock and roll coming of age.
That was the biggest rock and roll movie of the time. It was in color for the start off.
Gorgeous Lifelike Color by Deluxe.
And the film introduced a whole new generation of young white rock and roll talent.
You know, Gene Vincent was in it. That's the first time and only time I think I saw him on film.
She's the woman that I know. She's the woman that loves me so. Say, be-bop-a-lula, she's my baby. Be-bop-a-lula, I don't mind. Be-bop-a-lula, she's my baby, my baby, my baby.
If you'd only ever heard them on record, and all of a sudden, there they are in vibrant Technicolor.
For a station identification. Fats? Yeah? It's me, Miller. What's the television? Eddie Cochran, one of America's top rock and rollers.
Ooh, well, I gotta get with a record machine. When it comes to rockin', she's a queen. We'll love to dance on a Saturday night.
It was treated as a musical, you know, but it was our musical. Teenagers' musical.
Up on the 12th, I'm ready to drag. Well, up at the 8th floor, I'm starting to sag. Get to the top, I'm too tired to rock.
It wasn't a Fred Astaire movie, you know.
Drive-ins were developed in the 1930s to attract the family audience to the movies, but hit their peak in the 50s. As films were aimed at a younger audience and car ownership and teen licenses multiplied, kids in cars and driving culture boomed.
Oh, you know how I love you.
Being able to drive a car was freedom. And of course, it was sex. It was all about sex. Suddenly, teenagers had privacy.
When you talk about a car, you're really talking about the hotel. Hey, the guy couldn't go to the hotel. You know, let's face the fact, he's backseat of the car. That was his hotel.
To quote a teenager, without a car, you're dead.
My dad owned a drive-in in Azle, Texas. It was called the Eagle. By the 1950s, they're kind of carnivalesque spaces.
Wake up, little Susie.
The film wasn't the only attraction.
Wake up, little Susie. Wake up.
Everybody recognized that there was ample opportunity for the kind of thing that you weren't supposed to do.
The movie's over, it's 4 o'clock and we're in trouble deep. Wake up, little Susie.
Wake Up Little Susie, 57's risque tale of staying out late at the drive-in, was a perfect example of the evolution of rock and roll and teen culture. The music was now reaching broader America and spawning new young white singers speaking directly to the white teen market.
We gotta go home.
Singers who hailed from beyond the Delta, like Virginia's Gene Vincent and sometime Oklahoma boy Eddie Cochran. The Everly Brothers, from Brownie, Kentucky, with a real country deal. Raised on the high, lonesome mountain music of Kentucky miners.
Precious memories, unseen angels, said from somewhere to my soul.
The teenagers were signed to a Nashville label, destined for a career in country, until a young Don collided with the swamp guitar sound of legendary rocker Bo Diddley.
I listened to Bo Diddley and I went, oh. And I said, I'm never going to be happy with country music now. I'll never be happy.
Archie Blyer, their label boss at Cadence, had a debut song in mind for them that had been rejected by 30 artists.
Archie Blyer, he brought it to us and I said, well, we can do it. Yeah, I said, I wanted to use that Bo Diddley sound I had on some of my songs. He said, why don't you take that arrangement and just put it on that song? I said, why not? I did that, and that was Bye Bye Love.
Bye bye love, bye bye happiness, hello loneliness. I feel like I could die. Bye bye my love, goodbye. There goes my baby with someone new.
I think we just immediately saw them as big brothers that we could trust. They weren't show business people being forced on us.
What is your name?
Don Everly, age 20.
How about you? What's your name?
Phil Everly, and I'm 18 years old.
Will both of you please smile?
They looked collegian, but they had this look saying, don't mind what this looks like. That's not who we are. Because the glint in the Everly Brothers' eyes was, we know more than we're telling.
18, 20?
We just love that.
I think Pat Boone is old enough to be their grandfather.
Well, Johnny is a joker. He's a bird, a very funny joker. He's a bird, but when he jokes my honey, he's a dog. He joking, no, so funny. What a dog. Johnny is a joker that's a trying to steal my baby. He's a bird dog.
When I saw them on television, I was astonished because I assumed there were 3 of them. That's where the light went on that there's something about family vocal cords. If you have the same structure in your vocal cords, the overtones feed back on each other and it sounds much thicker.
If you sang really good, it was working, you did feel that. There's another voice, you know.
And their singing style makes me squeal right along with all their fans. So a big welcome to the Everly Brothers.
One of the things that you noticed was the sound of the guitars is equal to the sound of their vocals. You're talking about layer of mastery with the Everly Brothers. I think this is one of the first time I'd ever heard a tremolo guitar. Lo and behold, it's Chet Atkins, this Nashville guitarist who's playing a Gretsch.
Tremolo was our sound. I mean, that's what Chet gave to us. Chet called it tremolo, and he was the first one to do that, as far as I know. I said, can we use it on our record? He says, after I use it on my record. It was like crushed velvet or something you had, you know. And it was different.
Never felt like this until I kissed you.
Look, we have an autograph table over there, and I think a lot of these kids would like your autograph. So why don't you go on over?
Be glad to.
Okay, thanks.
Never had you on my mind.
But if Chuck Berry had perfectly described the physical features of the teenage world, the Everlys took it one step further and got right inside the teenage mind.
I kissed you. Oh yeah.
I first heard the Everly Brothers on my way to school, on the school bus, with friends who said, "So, have you heard this new song, Dream?" "No," I said. Somebody played Dream to me, and I thought I would die. "What a song!" I said. "Holy cow, what is that?"
Dream, 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 dream. Dream, dream, dream when I want you in my arms.
It absolutely captured just how we felt in terms of yearning for the boys, for a boyfriend. Couldn't really say sex. We didn't know that we wanted sex. But yearning, we understood.
When I feel blue in the night.
For a young mind, talking about dreaming, to dream of the love that I have, is so beautiful because it stops so much loneliness.
His dream, 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 dream. I can make you mine.
We loved the way those harmonies intertwined. And I think that harmony represented a kind of intertwining of the sexes, too. There was something very erotic about it.
I'm dreaming my life away.
It's just magical psychology, heartfelt beauty.
I love you so, and that is why.
It's different than Elvis giving us the advice, don't ever kiss me once, kiss me twice. This is when you're lonely, you can just dream about love from her, and it's as good as being there. It's just beautiful advice.
Dream, dream, dream,
The Everlys' sweet Nashville harmonies soothed the nerves of an increasingly paranoid America.
Until 2 days ago, that sound had never been heard on this earth. Suddenly, it has become as much a part of 20th century life as the whir of your vacuum cleaner.
With Russian satellite Sputnik launched in late '57, emitting a mysterious signal picked up on American radio waves.
We feel that they have something out that majority of the people don't know about.
Definitely alarming.
But not everyone was afraid of what was out there.
Today, visitors from space may be studying us from similar heights.
And just over 100 miles from the UFO epicenter Roswell, in the dry flatlands of New Mexico, lay otherworldly Clovis.
You ain't been blue. No, no, no.
Where an out-of-the-way studio was gaining a reputation. Built by easy-listening duo Norman and Vi Petty, who created a home from home for musicians, including Texan Boys, Buddy Holly and the Crickets.
Always get that mood indigo since my baby said goodbye.
This is the back of the studio where we could come back and relax and rest a little bit from the recordings. We loved to come back here because it was so nicely furnished. It was more modern than what we were accustomed to where we lived. If we were extremely tired, the bottom would roll out and rise up, and it would make a bed all the way across this back part of the room here. And I've seen it full of bodies, live ones, that is.
Buddy and the Crickets were down home, ordinary kids. Teenage school friends, playing covers and starting to experiment with writing their own songs.
I think in the way that he wrote songs, you could tell he was from Texas. They weren't something that was real flashy, like if he'd been living in New York City or Pittsburgh or Pennsylvania.
I went and saw the John Wayne movie, The Searchers. John Wayne answered questions like, "That'll be the day."
You want to quit, Ethan?
That'll be the day. Buddy was sitting there playing something, and he said, "We ought to write a song," which Buddy and I never tried to write a song before, and I said, "That'll be the day."
I hope you die.
That'll be the day. He said, "Not a bad idea." And he said, "Well, that'll be the day."
Well, that'll be the day when you say goodbye. Yes, that'll be the day.
It was February 1957. I drove over to Clovis to do a demo to try to get a record deal.
That'll be the day when I die. Well, you give me all your loving and you turn down.
This is the control room where Norman controlled the sound that was coming from the production room. Then he had a remote control where he could sit right here, start the tape, and he's mixing the sound as we go.
The day when you make me cry, you say.
We were just doing a demo to send to Roulette Records, and we sort of set up and played it, and we didn't think it was perfect or anything like that. Sort of the room noise was there, and we were all in one room. The demo ended up coming out as the record, which was quite amazing to us because we'd already done it.
He would take the master tape and transcribe it to an acetate like this. This the artist could purchase for a minimal fee of about $3, and it'd be a lifetime memory for him.
So $15 to record That'll Be the Day, and I still have my $3 demo here from back those days.
All of my love, all of my kissing, you don't know what you've been missing, oh boy. Oh boy. When you're with me, oh boy. Oh boy.
We were in Odessa, Texas on our tour with Elvis and Johnny and the rest of us.
All of my life I've been waiting, tonight there'll be no...
They opened the show. Elvis said, "Man, he's great." There and again, I said, "Him?"
Stars appear and the shadows are falling. You can hear my heart calling.
I met Buddy Holly first in junior high school. I was in 7th grade and he was in the 8th grade. He sort of stood out. From the first time I met him, he wore glasses, and he needed to wear glasses. He was always really neat and tidy. He was just an intelligent, well-mannered, smart aleck.
I remember my best friend in junior high school saying, "Wow, he's as ugly as I am. You don't have to be Elvis Presley. If he could be a rock star, so can I."
I think we were the first ugly band, and then the Stones took over.
For Buddy and the Crickets, success was almost overnight. Their debut hit, That'll Be the Day, a #1 in the US and UK, and 5 top 10 hits in the first year.
Feel so good.
But as early as their second hit, school friends Buddy and Jerry found their songwriting tightly knit with their personal lives.
Buddy and I were riding around a 55 Oldsmobile, and he played me this song he had started called Cindy Lou, and it went sort of like this, like, "If you knew Cindy Lou, then you'd know why I feel blue without sin." And I said, "Hey, man," because I had a high school, I don't think you'd call her a sweetheart, but anyway, and I said, "Let's change that to Peggy Sue."
If you knew Peggy Sue, then you know why I feel blue without Peggy. My Peggy Sue. Oh, well, I love you, gal, yes, I love you, Peggy Sue.
Everything was going real good until Peggy Sue came out. And we played in California, and Peggy Sue was there. I decided I was going to get married, being 18 and really stupid.
Oh, well, I love you, gal, yes, I love you, Peggy Sue.
And in 1958, on a trip to New York, Buddy Holly had a chance meeting with a young receptionist that would change his life. It was a whirlwind romance. He proposed to Maria Elena on the same day he met her. But Jerry's memories of this time are not altogether happy.
But he said, I'm going to get married too if you're going to get married. I mean, this is truth. I never have said this before, but it's true. And I said, man, you don't get married just because I'm going to get married.
This is what I heard. Of course, the story could be wrong.
Well, I was at a hotel in New York City, and Buddy Holly called me on the phone. So I'm thinking about maybe getting married, Jerry Lee. He said, what do you think of that? I said, well, I wouldn't go by my past experience. He said, well, that's what I'm talking about. He said, I know you give me the truth about it. Well, should I do it or should I not? And I said, well, I'll tell you, buddy, that's something you're going to have to work out in your own mind and work it out through God. That's all I can tell you. He said, well, I think you're right. I appreciate it. And that's the last time I talked with him.
He married Maria Lane and I married Peggy Sue. Things weren't the same for sure. I got married sometime in July, then Buddy got married in August, and so we went on our honeymoons together. It's just not real romantic. It had a lot more to do with success. Anyway, so we discussed we were all moved to New York. Then we got back. This is as true as I've ever told the story. We got back to Clovis, and Norm was, a hell of an influence on us anyway. But Norm said, "You sure you want to move to New York?" Said, "You know who's going to be running the show up there?" We'd seen signs that Maria Elena was going to take charge, and we might get kicked out of the band or something. Is the way it felt. So we decided to stay in Clovis.
For whatever reason, Buddy and Maria Elena stayed in New York, and the Crickets stayed in Clovis. The next tour Buddy would undertake would be solo, and nothing would ever be the same in rock and roll.
The night we met, I knew bam! The best things in life are free.
We're exploiting our sexuality while being fully dressed.
Get down.
Welcome to American Bandstand.
It was like apple pie and rock and roll. I was a fantasy boyfriend.
Oh, hi there.
He said, I hate this place.
You're flushing our money down the toilet.
It brings back a lot of old memories.
It was all going to go Southern California.
The Beatles?
Ooh. You can't clean it up because it's dirty to begin with.